we're gonna have a Volibear versus a Yasuo. So exciting round one, and it looks like these players are already set up. So let's go ahead and join them for our very first round of today's event. All right, so here we go. I'll let these guys know to go to start, and I'll get it going. And Ollie, how do you feel about this matchup? Do you think anyone here is favored or not?
I think it's interesting. I've not personally played or seen a lot of Yasuo, but I can see the idea is good. I think whenever you can cheat out extra points, it's a very good way to get over the finish line. Because as we know, Volibear, we know it's going to be Aurora, so it's all about getting that ramp early. Not wasting too many runes. You can see here he's already playing a Buccaneer to trigger that Volibear Legend ability, and it just helps get stronger. But I think the key will be how can they use the purple Yasuo to maybe steal the win and get that final 8th point that you're looking for.
Yeah, I agree. Yasuo is one of those legends that takes a lot of foresight, right? You want to be thinking really far ahead, thinking about how am I going to score those final points near the end with those cards like, is that purple Yasuo, and then they have other cards they can use with Ride the Wind, right, to score. I think Kayn benefits from things like bouncing from battlefield with cards like Ride the Wind. Sonya's another good card that benefits from being on the battlefield, but will be played out onto the base, it looks like.
Yeah, Sonya's not a card you see very often. That'll be interesting to see how they use that one. Interesting choice of battlefields as well. You normally see Aurora decks opening with aspirants because it's just a safe game one battlefield. You're hugely favored when you're going to 9 instead of 8. But interesting he goes with the Candlelit Sanctum, I'm assuming, which would be it's a strong battlefield as well. Always good to cycle the deck because you don't know. I mean, this is his 8. He's on 8 runes this turn, so obviously 1 turn away from potentially playing Aurora. So I have to wait and see what happens next turn.
Nice. It decides to play out the Lee Sin centered onto the fortified position. And thinking about it now, who do you think has what battlefield? You think Yasuo's on the Candlelit or on the fortified? Because sometimes these players flip-flop their battlefields and it kind of confuses us.
Yeah, I would assume the Yasuo is the fortified. I don't see it very often, but you do see it with... you can see it with the Yasuo deck. I know I played Estelion last week in the tournament run and he ran Candlelit, so I'm going to assume he's kept it the same this week, but you just don't know. But this is where it starts to get interesting. You've got 10 runes now for Volibear player. He's done really well to have so much tempo. I mean, it's very rare you get to this stage and you're up on points. So I think that's put him in a really good spot, and there it is. So straight away, we get the Aurora. Nice and early. There was a debate a while ago about if you want to go first or second with Aurora, because logically everyone thinks, okay, second I can get to 9 quicker because you go 3, 5, 7, 9. But as someone pointed out, if you go first, it slows the opponent's tempo down because they won't score as quickly. And secondly, if you do have those really high roll games where you can ramp twice and get it out on turn 3, if your opponent's only had 2 turns and you get an Aurora on the board, there is very little they can do to come back to that. So I think this is looking already very, very good for the Volibear player because that Aurora is just going to keep stocking up more and more units each turn.
Yeah, you're so right. Absolute, so much value coming out from that dazzling Aurora, and got it off as early. I believe that was turn 4 because he didn't have it turn 3, or was it turn 3 Aurora?
I think it was turn 4 Aurora because turn 1 he immobilized. So turn 4 Aurora is still good because if you think about it, your opponent's only had 3 turns. So
exactly.
It's still, if you can get it nice and quickly, I mean, I think that's one of the things with Volibear is it's got a very good top end, but I personally have had more success with the MF version because there's a bit more card draw. It helps the consistency factor a bit, but this is still, to be in this position with turn 4 Aurora, the odds of the only real purple card that Yasuo could be playing is Fading Memories, which is the give a unit or battlefield, give a unit or a gear temporary. That is the best answer. I know I played against an Annie a couple weeks ago, and they immediately sideboarded in 3 of those, and it caused some real headaches for me later in the game. So it depends if they're running that. I would assume it might be in the sideboard because in this meta you expect to see some Aurora. So I'm guessing that's probably the case. But in terms of what they can do in this game 1, I doubt they'll have many answers to this Aurora, and this could get out of hand quickly with this Aurora Volibear.
Yeah, and we didn't see, but he ended up playing that purple champion. And the Defy on the Primal Shrine. Wait a minute.
That's a big
okay.
Defy, yeah. I think you don't see Primal every day in these decks because I think the logic can be, you're playing a lot of big stuff anyway, so playing Primal seems to be overkill. But in the situations where it's good, it's very good. You know, if you're trying to do a big hold to win the game, they drop down something like a Watcher, and you can just throw down Primal. You know you're in a good spot, and you're most likely holding that battlefield.
Yeah, it's one of the best cards in orange. I want to say a +7 is nothing to scoff at. Such a respectable amount of might. But gonna go with the Sky Splitter onto the Zhonya. Just doesn't want to get those ready 4 runes at the end of the turn. I think he has no more green runes, so no Defy available, but goes with the Discipline to try to take it out of the range of the 5 damage done by the Sky Splitter. Is that going to be more than enough? It does bring her to that 6 total might, so does get over the Sky Splitter. Not too bad. That's a perfect way of kind of working around that, keeping your battlefield control for Yasuo. Yasuo's playing this very, very well, despite what we thought was Volibear's kind of game to have once he had that Dazzling Aurora developed. So this is looking pretty back and forth so far. I'm super curious to see how he's going to maneuver that purple Yasuo on these next turns, but it looks like Dazzling Aurora is proccing, and everyone's favorite nemesis, the Deadbloom Predator, deciding if he wants to play it onto the fortified position. 6 and 4. Wait a minute. Oh wait, no, well, that wasn't Dazzling. Was that from the accelerated spell?
I believe that was from Aurora, but this seems a really interesting plan because not only are you playing against fortified position, the Marauder also has tank. So if you do the maths, you can't. I imagine in his mind he's thinking, okay, I can kill the Sona and trade. Whereas actually he's going to trade with the Marauder because of the tank and not have enough left over to deal with the Sona. So I think this may be a slight miscalculation on the Volibear's part. You know, I think that's one of the things with these Yasuo decks. You don't see them very often. As you see there, it just trades with the Marauder and it pushes the Sona back.
Oh, somehow it did have enough might. Perhaps because of the Sky Splitter having the 5 damage. It wasn't written out, so it had 5 damage. Exactly. So effectively, he just needed to do 2 more. So it wasn't a misplay, perhaps. It was just more so trying to get everything out the way. The Zhonya protecting the Sonya, and then just bringing it back to the fortified position. Now, I think this makes sense why Yasuo is running fortified. In order for him to protect these units like the Zhonya, able to ready those 4 runes each and every turn. That's quite powerful for Yasuo with those calm spells that they tend to run so much of, right?
Yeah, I think when you're looking at green, that's the key color, because used to say you've got to plan so carefully into green matchups, because between things like On Guard, Discipline, Defy, there's a lot they can do to really make life difficult for these other decks in terms of being able to plan ahead and know what they might have to deal with you. I think the other thing is I think the stream is slightly behind on points. It's got the Volibear at 1. I've just checked on my other screen. I can see
what's Volibear?
Someone mentioned.
Is he at 2?
I've got him at 4. It should be 4 to 3.
Why can't I see it? That's so weird on my end. Okay, I got him at 4 because he held with the Buccaneer twice now, right?
Yes, he's just sort of he's set up shop in the Candlelit, and Yasuo doesn't seem too eager to actually deal with it, but I think here we'll start to have a play. So we've got things like On Guard coming in. I assume this is where we move the Yasuo. We can then use the Yasuo hero ability to move him back. And then that scores as an extra point as well. So we'll score 1 for Candlelit. We'll then activate Candlelit, check top 2. And then I would assume we'll tap 2 and move Yasuo away again to keep him safe and score that extra point. So it's a really cool way of seeing how you can sort of cheat cards. Ooh, he goes to the Ride the Wind.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, it's the 3rd time he moves. So, of course, he needs to move 1 more time. And now he can come back to base. And that will get him his 5th point.
Absolute perfect sequencing, capitalizing on the fact that Ride the Wind also readies the card, able to move the card back to base, not only protecting it, but also triggering the ability to score a point. Silent all the way to 5 points already, just 3 more points away from winning against this Volibear player. Silent doing very well. This is one of the higher skill Yasuos I've seen in quite some time.
Yeah, this is very impressive. I thought once it was, if you look back to the turn 4 situation when the Aurora hit the board, it was hard to see a way they could have traded out, really come back from that. But they've done a really good job. I think Volibear hasn't quite been able to develop much beside the 1 unit a turn. I think one of the big perks for Aurora is if you have Aurora, then the next turn you play a Deadbloom and then your Aurora procs something on top. So if you're getting those 2 units a turn, that's when it's very, very hard to keep up with anything at that point. It'd be interesting to see, maybe we could be close to seeing the Volibear come down, the hero. Like, choose to go with the MF. Nice.
Yeah, doesn't decide to play out the champion just yet, but it decides to go with the accelerated MF, so I'm wondering what he has in mind. Perhaps send in a unit, maybe okay, let's see. Goes for another Buccaneer. Already triggered the Volibear ability with the MF, so won't be channeling another rune. But does he want to just ready the Buccaneer and send everything into the Candlelit and try to just hold it down? But Yasuo's ahead on point tempo, so he won't be winning that way.
I think that's the plan. I think move the MF, then assuming he'll remember to trigger the MF ability and ready the Buccaneer, as we see there. So he's now got 16 might to go into this, into the fortified position, and they'll go up to a combined 4+2 from the battlefield, so a 10. So it should be this. I don't see how in 4 runes the Yasuo will have much to be able to contest this. Because even if you're thinking two disciplines or an on guard won't be enough, so I'll be very surprised if he doesn't comfortably take this position. And yes, there he does. So Volibear up to 6, so there's now pressure on this next Yasuo turn. This is a big turn. See if he can take control of these battlefields.
Yeah, you're so right. This is the turn. I will say Volibear kind of solidified his control in the matchup. Dazzling Aurora going to be triggering the MF, just decides to place it on the fortified position. This feels like Yasuo a little bit on the back foot. Did so well from stacking up those points nice and early on. But looking at these creatures now, Volibear controlling fortified. What cards does he possibly have to take down the total of 13 might on that battlefield? We have certain cards, perhaps he may or may not be running it, like White Flame Protector, a buff. Is it a +8 might on a unit?
Yes, White Flame gives +8, but even that,
exactly,
that wouldn't be enough. That would only get Yasuo to 12. So
exactly.
He also doesn't even have the runes. He's only got 7 runes, so we're a bit light on runes here, and only 3 cards in hand. It's a pretty looking a bit dire here. I think, like you said, this Aurora decks can just sort of reach critical mass at a certain point. Like last turn, playing the MF and a Buccaneer is so much might to bring on the board. Obviously, with the accelerate from the MF and then using her ability to ready the Buccaneer, very, very hard to keep up with 10 accelerated might on a single turn. Plus, then you add just an extra 5 might from the MF as protection towards the end. It's not an easy position. But we see him start to make a move here. So the Yasuo will move once and score, which is good. So that'll take him to 6. If he can move again, maybe get to 7, that could be a good attempt. But there is one thing to bear in mind. Obviously, the Misfortune does have ganking. So you think you might be safe given both your opponent's units are on the other battlefield. But the MF can gank across. And obviously, that Yasuo only being 4 might does make it slightly difficult for him.
Yeah, not too much might to work with on the side for Silent. The only way to score for him, of course, he passes back. If he did something like Ride the Wind back to the base, readied it, and then go back into Candlelit to get that extra trigger. But no cards, or none of those cards. Instead, Volibear gonna go for a simple Void Seeker, but gets defied, protecting the Yasuo. But he's not too protected, as you mentioned. That Misfortune over on the other side does indeed have ganking. Brings back Lee Sin and goes for the gank onto Candlelit, and it does take down the Yasuo. So things are looking rough for our Yasuo player. And it looks like it's a concession. So game number 1 will go in the favor of Volibear. Well done.
Yeah, certainly one of the niche battlefields you'll ever see.
That indeed. And how do you feel about the Sigils of Storm for Volibear? You think it kind of really puts a damper on Yasuo's game plan without hampering too much the Volibear?
I think it's good. I think if you know, because you're going to assume that you're probably going second. I assume Yasuo will always want to go first, because this is what the Yasuo's looking for. Something like a Traveling Merchant early to move around, cycle the deck a bit, but more importantly, score early points. I think that's what we saw lacking last game, was he went Zhonya's turn 2 into stack deck. The tempo just wasn't quite there. See, this I find interesting, because this... I think it is good. It kills a lot of tempo. I believe the Yasuo player will still have to trigger the Merchant effect to discard one.
Double on guard. That is ambitious. That's a lot of resources to expend so early.
I like that though, because I think, like I was just saying, the tempo is so important in this matchup. You can't risk falling behind multiple points with multiple turns without scoring enough. And also it deramps the Volibear. So like I mentioned just while we were setting up for game 2 about that, those spells that can set you back, because instead of going 3, 5, 7, 9, we're now back on the even scale, which is obviously not as good for Aurora, being that 9 cost spell.
And I like this play coming out from the Yasuo. Goes ahead and discards draw one for moving the Traveling Merchant to the backyard alley, and then triggers the Yasuo ability to bring him back, not only protecting him with drawing and discarding another set of cards. So just filtering through the deck in order for him to draw those ideal cards he wants to try to keep this pressure going. Says he has 1 point so far. He still has a long way to go, but as you said, this is one way you want to keep that pressure going each and every turn. So back at the backyard alley, gonna go for the 2 points. There's Volibear players completely tapped out. And if you've been keeping an eye on what the discard's been, there's been some nice cheeky cards there. I think it was a Zon Knight, or I'm not unfamiliar with the name, but it was something like when you play me, return. Did you catch that, or?
Yeah, so I spotted a card like that. Obviously, I can see he's just discarded the Sona now. So yeah, some interesting discards coming through. I think, like you said, I think it'll be interesting to see if he's going for any sort of combos. I think we always say with combo decks, you want to find those pieces as quickly as possible. That's what the Merchant helps you do. So things like Ride the Wind. I will be interested to see if he's playing Fading Memories, the card I mentioned in the last game, that can give a gear temporary, if he's playing that this game or not. Because if so, you'll want to find that as soon as possible so that the Volibear can only get 1 turn of value out of Aurora before he can destroy it. But it'll be interesting to see if he's running that or not. Yeah, I like this sneaky deck count. It's a good play. Steal some early points. I think, like you say, it's interesting. That's an interesting move. I thought you'd prioritize saving the Merchant, especially because the Volibear will not want to fight you at Sigil, because obviously that deramps him. So I feel like that's an interesting play, unless I would assume the 3 cards in his hands are cards that he is very interested in keeping, would be my best guess.
That would be my best guess as well. I think 100% he likes the cards he has. He doesn't want to discard anything, just trying to save him for the following turn. But Buccaneer does get 1 point on the board, and Volibear 7 total runes to work with. So still about 1 turn away from that Dowsing Aurora. What does he decide to do? He did, the Blazing Scorcher onto the backyard alley. Okay, trying to just hold that down.
I quite like that. Keeps it safe. Yeah. Well, the thing is, I think this is where the Sigil comes in, because as Yasuo, you'd much rather hold the Sigil, because you don't want to keep retaking Sigil every turn to score the point you need, because you're losing a lot of you're then obviously recycling a rune every turn, which is not what anyone really wants to be doing. But I think that's why it works well. I think it's also makes it more interesting last turn that he kept the Merchant. He didn't pull the Merchant back, because I think Volibear wouldn't want to go into Sigil either. So I think you kind of get a free hold point there without having to now, if he chooses to retake with the deck hand, he'll lose another rune for it. So he's sort of slowly deramping himself slightly, which is why I think Sigil's a good battlefield in Aurora decks, because it just makes your opponent do things they don't want to do in the early game. Meanwhile, you can just sort of, once your Aurora's down, you're less concerned with holding runes up. You don't mind the recycling. So I think that's a very interesting play.
Yeah, it looks like he did recycle. Wait, did he recycle for the Sigil? Because I know he just recycled for the Yasuo champion, but I'm not sure if he did recycle for the Sigil.
He's moved him to the Sigil, recycled the second rune, and
there
then
it is.
Here we go. I think yeah, I was about to say, I think good spot there. Yeah, I saw he recycled 1, but obviously he should be recycling 2. But it'll be interesting. Like I said last game, we're now at the 10 rune turn for the Volibear deck. So are we going to be seeing? I think they're probably just discussing the rune recycling issues, but will we see the Aurora come down this turn is the question.
Yeah, if he taps 9 runes, that is a no-brainer call. But no, decides to go with an accelerated Blazing Scorcher for 6 total runes, contesting that sneaky deckhand, or what's his name? Sneaky deckhand on that Sigil. So I think Volibear did recycle, but of course Volibear's ability being mighty, when you play a 5 might unit, you get to channel 1 back, so a net 0 on that turn. So just goes up to, I believe, 3 points now. So not 2. Oh no, is it just 2? No, 3 from the hold, of course.
Yeah, 3. Volibear's on 3, Yasuo's on 4 now. So it's still a good spot. I think this is like I mentioned it briefly in the last game. There are some games you do just have to abandon the Aurora game plan. I'm guessing he doesn't have it in his hand. The Volibear deck fundamentally has a lot less card draw in it than something like the Misfortune deck, where you have access to things like Stack Deck that can help cycle you through your deck to find those Auroras. So I think it's a good play, just realizing he can pick up the tempo. The Yasuo spot isn't crazy strong here. You've got just a 4 might Yasuo on board. All of his units are 5 might, so it trades very awkwardly with everything. So I think that's a very good play. I think that's probably my biggest drawback of this Yasuo card. I think if this Yasuo card was 5 might, I think it'd be really, really good. I think at 4 might, it's always just felt a bit underpowered to me, because it doesn't feel like it trades up with much, unfortunately, at the moment in this current meta. I feel like you see a lot of 5s and 6s are a very common number, especially into sort of things like Master Yi. You're not trading into anything with his leader ability,
right?
So it can be pretty awkward to get him around. But if you can get him off, and if you can cheese a win with him, like here you'll see a discipline into, I assume we'll take the sigil.
Yeah, I mean, he has to do what he has to do, just trying to buff up enough to have that sufficient might to get over at least one of these 5 might units. Of course, targeting that sigil more than likely. He only has 5 more runes to work with, so that leaves enough room for maybe 1 more unit, maybe another ride the wind like we saw in game 1. You take over the sigil, ride the wind back, and then try to score again into the sigil. But that's going to be actually, it's only the first time you conquer, right? So you wouldn't be recycling 2 runes.
Yes, you wouldn't have to recycle again, but it would be, yes, if he did Yasuo, move in, ride the wind, move back, you could move Yasuo in again, and then that would do it. But then obviously you don't want to leave your Yasuo exposed on the battlefield, was the awkward part. And I was interested in the card we talked about last game. This, I've noticed, Volibear has left exactly 4 runes up, and this is where Primal Strength could potentially be devastating if he was to drop that here. Which out, there we go. So yeah, you've got to be careful. I assume we're going to get defied here. Yeah, we're going to get defied. Okay, nice. That's good. Yeah, I think recognizing that if Volibear, mysteriously leaves up 4 runes, you probably can make a pretty good guess, given you saw it in game 1. You can make a decent guess that you're going to be seeing that.
Instead goes for the Yasuo ability to protect that Yasuo for the following turn. Oh no, he did already pay for it, so already tapped out. Looking like he probably wants to oh no, he's gonna play the Pora with the final 2 runes, and it does have vision, so just look at the top card of your deck. Do you want to recycle it, keep it at the top, or want to send it to the bottom? I wish we could personally see what he's looking at, but deciding to recycle it, so did not like what he saw. Gonna be putting it at the bottom of the deck. And Volibear player kind of running away. Not running away because he is lower on points, but he seems to still have firm control of at least one battlefield, and he has so much more runes to work with. If he does end up playing out a Dazzling Aurora, things could go from better to even. Ooh. There it is. So does decide to play it out. And man, oh man, Yasuo, he has to try to stack up these points quick, but of course, a whole lot easier said than done versus a big mighted, against these high might units on that back alley bar. So this is tough. Imagine if he had if he had 2 out there, but instead goes for a Buccaneer off the top, decides to play it on the bar. Okay, he's holding it pretty strongly with a total of 15 might. This is going to be very, very tough for Yasuo to take down.
I think that's the key. I mean, I think in theory you can score 3 points in a turn with Yasuo, but as to how he's going to be able to do that against a 15 might battlefield, I'm not too sure. I mean, yeah.
You conquer 1, you go up to 6.
Yeah.
7 with the ability if you could kind of finesse and maneuver it around, but you're still missing that 1 point, and because it's your own turn, you have to conquer both battlefields. So his best bet would just be to try to hold down one of these battlefields, but Volibear player goes to 5 next turn. Okay, these next turns are going to be very interesting. Goes for Kane. That's step 1. This could be a way, but it just doesn't seem like enough might. Even if he has something like an On Guard, brings him up to 8, but he doesn't take damage if he moves. But no, there's just not enough runes. You can't use the Yasuo ability plus another spell. Yeah, I'm not sure what Yasuo can do here, but goes for a simple conquer on the sigil at the very least.
I think the key has to be, because the other thing is you've seen it so clearly with the sigil this game. The Yasuo's on 5 runes, and Volibear is on 11, I think, because every turn he's gone back in, back out of the sigil, and that's just meant that every single turn he's recycled an extra rune for free. So it's been hugely punishing this game to watch that setup. I think that's been something really important to note. I think the best chance that's not what we needed. The best chance here is to play Yasuo, conquer sigil, and then ideally ride the wind and score the 8th point with Yasuo, because that is a nice way to score the game-winning point. I think that's the combo we're looking for. What comes off this Aurora is going to be a big impact. If it's a big unit that can help the Lee Sin defend Sigil, then it's going to be hugely problematic.
And
for
that is
the
indeed
Yasuo
what he's
player.
hoping for. He wants to try to protect and hold that sigil down.
Oh,
but this
that's
game
the
plan
whole deck.
coming out from Volibear this whole time, I love it. You conquer one battlefield and you're forcing your opponent throughout their whole game to try to take over just one of the battlefields, the one that disadvantages them each and every turn they conquer. But double twinned up Lee Sin number 2, so total 12 might. Is there a set of cards on the side of the Yasuo player that gets this done? This is how many total runes? Just 7 runes available for him.
I think that's the problem, because I think if he was on 8, you could potentially look at a White Flame Protector or something along those lines would maybe help get it done. But yeah, I think it would have to be some sort of pump spell, whether it's Discipline or On Guard, then move in together and then see if you can combo Yasuo into moving twice. But we see again here, the Volibear player is sat there with 4 runes up. If a Primal comes down, you're not conquering any battlefield this turn if you try and go into there. So this is looking like it might be a fairly swift win here for the Volibear. He's just, he's both his games have gone to plan. There's been early Auroras. I think what you see nicely with the Volibear is getting out the cards like the Brazen Buccaneer, especially if you discard a card, you can play it for 4. So a 4 for 5 is great value when you're playing it early, especially because, like I mentioned, it triggers Volibear effect, so he's ramping every turn. And it's just been very, very difficult to keep up. I think when you're playing a deck like Yasuo, you want a lot more tempo. Obviously, we saw him play the double on guard earlier to save the Merchant. I think that was correct. I think you can't risk losing cards like the Merchant early because they're so important. But here we go. Okay, so here comes the Discipline.
Yeah, step 1, trying to get something done this turn. So 8 might just be enough to take one of these Lee Sins, but how is he going to take down the other one? Even another Discipline won't be enough, bringing that Cane up to 10. But even if you do play another Discipline, even an On Guard, you're still super shy. Your Yasuo ability is going to cost you 2 more runes on top of that. Then what are you going to play to move that Cane, right? You were hoping for more runes to have something like Ride the Wind. But yeah, a little bit short, like we keep saying. And as you mentioned before, Volibear is indeed at that 6-point even threshold. Just a double hold from this Volibear player will close things out. So that's what Kami or Silent is thinking about right now. He's saying, can I at least stop him from winning? But it might not just be good enough, because even if you do stop him, that Dazzling Aurora will continue to be a menace to him. But here we go, at least 5. I take that back. He's gonna go.
Not
okay,
quite, yes.
5 runes indeed. What does he have in mind?
We are torn here. There's obviously a 5 rune card he's thinking about playing. Be interested to see which one he's debating.
It could be the one that when you play, you move a unit back to the base. I forgot his name, but he's like the
Maddened Marauder. Yes,
exactly right.
Yes, we saw that last game. It could be that. That would certainly give something like the Cane Axis, but like you said, that fully taps him out, which means he wouldn't be able to do any shenanigans with moving the Yasuo. That won't be able to do it. I think. Yeah, it's not looking great for the Yasuo player here. I can't, because especially I think if you move in with the Cane and the Yasuo, but then the Volibear can trade into the Yasuo, and then you lose your out of sort of sneaking that 8th point through movement rather than actually scoring a battlefield or anything along those lines. So very interesting position. We're playing 4 to tap 2. When you're playing, return another unit of the battlefield to its owner's hand. Oh, interesting. Okay.
Okay, so decides to do one of the Lee Sins. So lowers that total might presence on the sigil to down to 6. So Cane could comfortably go in, but goes for the stacked deck, just trying to find those 1 card off the top. But what can he possibly do with 1 card and 0 runes to work with? This is just more to see what was on the top.
Tap yourself out there. Yeah, so I think you've got to go in here. If we see a Primal now, it's game over. If not, be interested to see if Yasuo just goes for a big hold and moves in with everything. That would be my... Oh, the Sky Splitter. There we go. So this will end up trading.
Yeah, so forcing the Yasuo to go conquer, but that's only going to be bringing that Yasuo up to 7 total might. But it does, as we mentioned before, it stops the Volibear player from winning outright. We've seen the only accelerate units are those Lee Sins and the Blazing Scorcher. He already, actually, he has 1 Lee Sin in hand. Is that a GG?
I was saying it's over. It's over. He bounced the Lee Sin. He'll just play the Lee Sin accelerated, move in. The Yasuo's fully tapped. There's no way he can Oh, you can Sky Splitter it as well, but yeah, that's GG. And that's a quick 2-0.